Molly, welcome to the Calm Mom podcast. I'm so grateful to have you with us. Thanks for making the time to be here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to
Yeah,
be
this is going to be
here.
good. We were talking a little bit before we hit record about how we operate in very similar spheres, I think, in a lot of ways. So I'm excited to see
hmm
where that leads today. But before we start, could you just introduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit about you and the work that you're doing?
Sure. Yes. So, I am Molly Claire. I'm a single mom of
Mm,
three, and I about 10 years ago wrote the Happy Mom Mindset, which was a part of my as I was just starting my coaching business. So I started out working with moms, and now in my career, what I do is I train coaches and master coaches to be able to have a holistic way of helping their clients, just like you do with your
yeah.
clients, right? Where you're really helping them understand the whole picture of them. So that's what I do. I love my work. I love helping women to feel strong and feel capable and to meet their
Mm.
goals. And
That's
that's about it.
beautiful.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
about.
I'm curious
So,
because, we all have our own journey. And when I decided I was going to become certified as a master coach, I had this naive, this naive thought that I was going to this program to learn all of these skills, like all of these tools for my toolbox. So I would be able to then turn around and help so many people. And
mhm.
what I didn't realize, and it was such a beautiful gift, was that my world was going to be turned upside down and my way, right? Like I would learn
Yes.
so much and I would be healed in so many ways and my paradigms would be challenged and my mindsets would be adjusted about so many things. Like I just didn't see it coming. And I would love to hear a little bit about, maybe your journey at the beginning, like how you decided to really get into this work. And, it always starts with us, right? And it's like, we have to learn the lesson and then we can teach the
Yes.
lesson. But I'd love to hear a little bit about it
Yes.
from your seat.
Yes, and I mean, I can tell you kind of from two perspectives. I mean, when I'm training my master coaches, that's it's like everything we do in there, right? Is let's do this for you first. Let's apply this to you, and then we extend that to your
Yeah.
clients, right? And it's the same thing even for a mom, right? So just speaking to the moms here, we there are things we still have to learn so that we can then offer that to our client.
Yeah.
Even like Michelle, and I will get to your question, but I have to say, like with the work you do with helping your clients with nervous system regulation, it's like when we show up as a mom and we have regulation and
Mm-hmm.
steadiness, it creates a space where our
Yep.
kids can learn it, right? And so it's like it's the exact same thing. But back to your question about me, yeah, when I actually found coaching at a time when I did need it, and I felt the effects. I had a coaching session that just immediately shifted the way I
Yeah.
was thinking, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I need more of this and I want to
Yes.
be a part of this, and maybe this is the thing that I've always felt
Yep.
I wanted to do," right? And so I definitely got into it because I found the value in it personally. But yes, I had no idea, right? It's like I honestly feel like I love that I get to help people. I want to help more and more people and have an enormous impact. And if if I
Yeah.
never made a dime in my business or never helped anyone else, all of the time and energy and money I've invested in my training, just the way it's impacted
Yeah.
me personally, is
Yeah.
100%
I
worth
couldn't
it.
agree more. And it's also part of my enlightening, I guess, in beginning my own certification program was how many blind spots I had in my own life. And it's
Yes.
why
Oh my
I vowed,
gosh.
like, as long as I'm coaching women or people, I will always have a coach because we don't know what we don't know.
That's right. We it's impossible for us to truly have that higher level view
Yeah.
of ourselves. We can have certain
Yeah.
insights, we can gain more awareness, but I think having a coach that can show you what you
Hmm.
can't see and can help you even with the awareness that you do have, be able to integrate it in a practical
Right.
way in your life. It's
Yeah.
everything. It's
Yeah.
everything. I will always have a coach,
Yeah,
at least one.
exactly. Same. Yeah, I'm all in on it. And I think one of the gifts of having a coach and the beautiful things about it is that so often we have all of these, things going on in our life. And I think just because of the way our brain works and probably a lot of how our society is built, we can get really sucked into compartmentalizing our things, right? Like, okay, I'm having a
Mm-hmm.
parenting issue. I need to go to like a parenting
Yeah.
guru, or I'm having, a financial issue and I need to get a financial planner, or I'm having, health issues and I need to go see, this kind of doctor. And while I think it's awesome to have people who can go deep in a lot of these specialties, we're integrated beings and everything affects everything. And I know
Right.
that's a big part of the work that you do and teach is like, this is holistic. And can you just, like, for people who are listening who understand or are curious, or like, I hear that a lot, but I don't really understand what people are talking about. Like, what does it mean to you to be able to offer a service or a coaching that really is holistic for people?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great question because I think a lot of people hear the
Yeah.
word holistic in relation to my coach training, and they typically think of health. They think of like holistic remedies or nutrition or food. And what it really means is exactly what you said, that we are
Yeah.
integrated beings. And so it's like, it's having a whole person view of the client
Mm-hmm.
in front of you. So while each of my coaches typically do specialize in something, right? Parenting or motherhood or weight loss or relationships, in truth, they are actually trained and qualified to be able to support their clients in navigating
Yeah.
all of it, because all of those parts of our lives
Yeah.
are integrated. And specifically to what I mean when I say holistic or whole person view, it's not even necessarily about the different areas of our life, as it is that we need to understand where our thought patterns, our mindset, our beliefs, right, that cognitive piece fits in with our emotions, our emotional
Yes.
experience, right? That emotional
Yeah.
resilience. And an emotional resiliency is one of the key things. So like the whole person approach really includes um, mind
Mm-hmm.
mastery, emotional
Mm-hmm.
resilience, and then aligned habits. And one of the things within emotional resilience is also the
Yeah.
nervous system, which I know, Michelle, you teach and talk about these things all the time. So if you're all thinking this sounds familiar, this is
Yes.
why, right? It's
Yes.
real. It's how we need to be
Yeah.
supported as humans. And so for my coaches and the work I do, it is making sure that my coaches understand when they're talking with a mom who's struggling with parenting or her relationship or whatever it is, right? That we understand when and where do we need to take a look at the thoughts that are happening here? When and where do we need that emotional support, some processing, or to understand some
Mm-hmm.
grounding techniques? And where can we also fit in some of these habits? Because there are different ways we can approach any challenge that we're having. And sometimes we can also have a multifaceted approach where we're kind of combining some of those. So hopefully that makes sense as far as what this whole person holistic
Yeah,
view
absolutely.
means.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm just, reflecting on what you've shared about your journey, right? A tiny little snippet, but as a single mom of three and growing this
Mm.
business, none of that is easy. And I would imagine that doing all of it presents its own set of challenges. But even before taking that first step, it requires an enormous amount of courage and confidence, I think, to start to build
Mm-hmm.
anything. And I know there are women listening, and maybe it's not a business, but maybe it's something else. Maybe they're passion, they have a passion project, or maybe it's being involved in their community or doing something with their children, or maybe it's changing careers, or maybe it is growing a business that they've always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to them. I would love to hear a little bit about like just even finding that confidence and
Yeah.
taking the first step to pursue these things as a mom, because I think it's different.
Yes. Yes. So, a couple things come to my mind immediately. And one is that it requires some level of belief or confidence in
Mm,
ourselves to take that
yeah.
first step. And I also want to say right alongside that, even if you don't have a ton of confidence or belief in yourself, you can make a decision right now that one day you will have that belief and confidence, and you're going to do that thing no matter what and
Wow.
figure it out. And I would say that, for me, that was, in part of my driving force behind saying, I am going to build this business, I am going to do this, is so I found coaching, um, again, at a time when I
Mhm.
really needed it. I thought this is something I want to be a part of, right? And at the time, my I was struggling in my marriage, so it was kind of these two things intersected at
Mm.
the same time. And so I was building my business, right? Continuing to master my skills, learning how to run a business, and becoming a single mom at the
Oh.
same time. And as women, whether we realize it or not, we have all these beliefs in the background telling us that we can't make as much money as men can make. And on top of that, and I think this is a big deal, as women, we tend to take on too much and not ask for
Yes.
enough
Yep.
support around us. And so here I was, becoming a single mom, terrified of recreating what I experienced growing up, was an exhausted, burned out single mom who I never saw because she was working to put
Wow.
food on
Yep.
the table. I didn't want
Mhm.
that for me. I did not want that for my kids. I wanted to be
Yep.
present with them. And so I think all of this came together for me to say, I don't
Mhm.
know how, but I'm going to
Yeah.
figure this out, because over my dead body, are my kids going to experience what I did? And am I going to experience what my mom did? And so I had just enough
Mhm.
confidence and just enough understanding of the power of
Mhm.
mindset to say, I'm going to commit to figuring
Wow.
this out no matter what. So I know that may be like a bigger story, like I'm doing air quotes than some people, right? Because whatever it is you want to do, and you may listen and think, oh, well, I want to do this thing, but it's not as big. But that's
Mhm.
actually not true. If you have a desire to do something and you're hesitant, just think about why you want to do it, anchor yourself in that, and decide that you're just going to take that first step. And maybe one day you'll be all the way there. I think that's really all it takes to
Wow,
get
that's
started.
beautiful. And I feel like this is such a great setup for something that I wanted to talk to you about, which is worthiness, because I know that you're passionate about it. And in hearing your story, I think all of us can relate to a certain extent because, no matter how our family of origin looked or our story looked, there are things that I know we all want to do differently with our own kids, right? And a big part of
Yes,
that
yes,
is like
yes.
even stepping out, like you said, in confidence or maybe future confidence. There has to be an element of actually believing that future Molly or future Michelle is worthy of the sacrifice that I'm making now, or she's worthy of the courage it's going to take to do
Mm-hmm,
this because of what I'm setting up for my future self. And I would love to just hear your
mm-hmm.
thoughts on especially worthiness, I think, with moms, because I think so often we're just like pouring out for everyone and we come last. And part of that is really beautiful. But without healthy guardrails, it can lead to a lot of resentment. And this, I think, this underlying mindset ultimately that we're not worthy of rest or care or love or to be held or enjoying beautiful things or whatever it is that can drive a lot of us to
Yep.
exhaustion.
Yeah. And I think it's like we're not worthy, we're not
Mm-hmm.
allowed. I shouldn't need this much
Yep.
time or help. I should be able to do
Mm-hmm.
more. I'm selfish if I spend time doing things for me. All
Yes.
of this stuff, right? And here's what I'll say, I think most likely everyone listening probably has a little more work to do
Yes.
on worthiness.
Yep.
Probably. I can say that I do
Mm-hmm.
100%, and I keep working on it. But I think that, and I'll speak to it in general and then speak to these moms specifically, but it is something that's been on my mind so much because um, I do the master coach training, and then I'm also doing a program for high level leaders. And so we're talking about, like, in that space, it's very much about leading your team to meet goals, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very tangible. It's very much leadership. It's kind of this more what would I say, sort of this like
Mm-hmm.
masculine energy of that's very different, right, than this piece of feeling worthy and permission. And but what's interesting is that in the corporate setup where it is all about achieving goals and success and these tangible things, if we don't feel worthy, we
Yeah.
won't do those things. And if you're leading
Mm-hmm.
a team and the people you're working with are struggling with how they feel about themselves, your job as a leader is to help infuse in them that belief in
Mm-hmm.
themselves, right? That worthiness, because it
Mm-hmm.
changes everything. So it's been on my mind so much, and it is a thread throughout everything. And with respect to like you as moms and this worthiness, I think that what's so interesting, and I know you know this, Michelle, and you've seen this, I'm sure, so much, is that whether we realize it or not, we all have things from
Yeah.
our past, traumas, things we missed out on, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was, right? And when we have kids, it brings up oftentimes us trying to make
Mm-hmm.
up for what we
Yeah.
didn't have. And we get this idea that we prove our worthiness or we prove our value by doing a good job
Yeah.
as a mom. And one of the ways we get really stuck, and this is a big thing, and I do talk about this in my book, this trap of like believing it's our responsibility to make sure our kids
Right.
succeed. And what that means in our mind is that they have to hit
Right.
certain markers,
Yeah.
right? And the reality is that as moms, it's super important for us to distinguish between what we do as a mom, because I believe what we do is important. I want to show up for my kids. I want to be consistent. I want to attune to their needs. I want to
Yeah.
be a good mom. And what my kids do with that, or who my kids are and what their path is very
Mm-hmm.
different than that. And so, I think that I know I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent there because I do feel like it's a trap that we can get caught in. But I just want to say to all of you listening, like, your worth and your worthiness has absolutely nothing to do with anything
Yeah.
you do, whether you're being a quote unquote
Yeah.
good mom, not a good mom, whether you're being what you think is a great mom and your kids going off the
Yes.
rails. All of that is they're just behaviors. There's just problems to solve. There are things to
Yeah.
figure out. But you as a human being are so
Mm-hmm.
worthy. You are so capable and you are so lovable. And I'm going to tell you, like right now, and I hope you really hear this, that you need to first and foremost take care of
Mm-hmm.
yourself and who you are, because you are worthy, you are deserving of it. And only when you're well taken care of can you really offer everyone around you what you want to offer
Mm.
them.
I'm just gonna let that simmer for a minute because it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it's something that I love to teach on too, is like we were all born with maximum worthiness and like nothing changes that. And it's so counter to what we're taught, I think. And for those of you listening who've listened for a while, you've probably heard me share this before, but it's something that a few years ago I started to even get really intentional about with my children, because I noticed, especially when they started school, which is kind of getting into your thing about measuring our right how good of a job I'm doing as a parent by how well they're doing in school and all of these different things. And I'm like, no, I'm coming against this because I know this is a lie. But I would notice that I'd pick
Yes.
them up, and my instinct right away was to be like, how'd the spelling test go? Like, right, like all the words we had studied, how'd it go? Or asking them about these things, which was ultimately prioritizing their achievements over just their being, right? Like how was their day overall?
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped asking about all of those school things that were just like the achievement based, and really opening it up to like, what's an interesting conversation you had today, or just like something else. Because I think so many of us, especially as millennial women, we've just been like, man, we've just been primed to achieve all of these things and base our worthiness on them. And when my kids were really little, I remember just asking them like, why do I love you? And it became like a game, but and they knew it. So they would say all the cute things like, because I'm smart, or because I'm cute, or because I helped, load the dishwasher. And I would just be like, nope, nope, nope. And then by the end, it'd be like, I just love you because you're mine. Like, I love you because you exist. I love you because you're
Mm-hmm.
perfect just how you are, whatever it was. But it's that reinforcement which I just love what you're talking about. It's the reinforcement that like your worthiness is inherent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think I love that you say that. And I'll share a little bit different way that I vocalize it too, because I think that it is important to vocalize that to
Yes.
our kids to reinforce it. It reinforces it to them and it
Yes.
reminds us at the
Yes.
same time,
Yes.
right? And so, yeah, with my daughter, when she, achieves something or whatever, I'll say, I'm so excited for you, right? Like I'm so like proud of your work on this. And you know what? I it has nothing to do with how much I love you. I do not love you
Mm-hmm.
any more now than I did 5
Beautiful.
minutes ago. And sometimes she'll say, "Well, that's too bad," right? She's like wanting to earn a
Yeah.
little more. But
Yeah.
I think over time it's like they realize, right? Because it's great when they come home and say, "Guess
Yeah.
what I did?" But what about when they come home and they know they didn't do something or they did something that
Sure.
wasn't so great, right? It's like we want them to know you're amazing no matter what you did or
Yeah.
did
It
not
takes the
do.
pressure off. And I think so many, like so
Yep.
often, if we're in that achievement mindset and we have to do things and we get caught up in whatever it is, perfectionism or however it shows up as adults, it's stifling because we're terrified to make mistakes and take risks and all of these things. But when
Yes.
we have that safety net of like, especially as kids, right? Like I'm unconditionally loved regardless of what, like you're helping them build a muscle that will pay off big time. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? I love that you said that. And I want to just highlight this for everyone listening because I think that it can be easy for, us to listen to something like this and for us to start thinking, oh, I need to do a better job of communicating my kids' worth
Yeah.
to them. Like, so if anyone is like going down that rabbit
Yeah.
hole, it really is learning this stuff and just realizing that when we learn something, we need to build the muscle of kind of bringing it into our everyday practice and having it be
That's right.
normal,
Yeah.
right? So it takes a little bit of
Yeah.
time.
I love that. You're talking
Yeah.
about building a muscle of it. And I love that we're also talking about, especially with worthiness, but so many of this stuff being a lifelong journey, right? Or a lifelong practice.
Yes.
And having more work to do. We just moved from Miami, where we're living in Houston right now. And a few days ago, the day before yesterday, we got invited to go to a dinner, and we're living out of suitcases right now. Like our stuff hasn't made it from Miami. I had nothing to wear. I brought I'm wearing a hoodie right now. Like I had nothing to wear. And my husband's like, go to the mall and go buy yourself something to wear to dinner tomorrow. And I'm going to watch the girls. And I'm like, wow, like I haven't been alone in 3 weeks since we left our house. I'm like, that sounds like such a joy and a treat. I'm going to go do that. And I drove to the nearest mall I could find because I have no idea what I'm doing. And I walked in, and you talk about all of these stories that happen, like just our built-in childhood. But I walk into this mall after I park, and it's just like Prada, Louis Vuitton, like all the, like those are the stores that are at this place. And immediately, and I do a lot of somatic work, like I felt it in my body. You have no business being here. And my shoulders tensed up, and like I'm just like walking around, and I'm like, well, I can't spend that much money on a pair of pants or on a pair of shoes or whatever. Like this is irresponsible, or whatever stories were coming up. And I'm so great. Like I caught it in the moment, and I'm like, whoa, like so much of my stuff is coming up. And it was, a lot of it is tied not only to worthiness, but feeling safe enough to receive these things. Because I think that's like, do we feel safe enough to receive rest? Do we feel safe enough to go after our dreams? And there's a worthiness aspect to that. And I bought a pair of sneakers that I had that like just felt like such a splurge for me. And I came home and I was like so proud of myself. But the amount of like intentionality it took for me in my body to be like, it's actually okay for you to spend this much money on a pair of shoes, regardless of like all the stories that you have coming up around that, regardless of how like unsafe that feels. And that's like a stupid little story, but it opened such a bigger picture to other areas in my life, right? Where I'm either playing small or thinking I'm not worthy
Yes.
or I don't belong or imposter syndrome or whatever it is. And it's a,
Yes.
this is you and I teach these things and we learn them also. It's like never
Yes.
ending.
And yes, and this is our daily experience. I know, right? I feel so lucky that
Yeah.
it is. It's just kind of like being in this constant space of being able to, learn these things at a deeper level as you're teaching
Yeah.
others. And we're not exempt from it, which is I think what allows us to help
Yeah.
people, right, in the way we do because we
Yeah.
understand it.
Beautiful. Um,
And I think,
no, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry,
Finish
go
your
ahead.
thought.
I was just going to say, again, to women listening and, as moms, I think that I mentioned this earlier, but it's very easy for us to struggle to ask for help or believe that
Mm-hmm.
we need help. And I just, again, I like use this word permission. I think it's important that we really do give ourselves permission and allow ourselves to be
Yeah.
human. Why would we not need help? That, like, we as human beings, we are designed to
Yes.
connect. We are designed to have interdependence
Yeah.
in our lives. And I think that especially as women, we can we can believe that we're supposed to hold more things than is humanly
Mm-hmm.
possible. And I know that one of the things I teach, and I know that you teach a version of this as well, is this idea that when we can increase our regulation, right, work on our nervous system and our emotions, we do expand our
Yes.
capacity, which is a
Yes.
beautiful thing, right? It's a beautiful thing. And please, all of you, give yourself permission to be human. If you need a
Mm-hmm.
nap, if you need a minute to yourself, that is a need that you have as a
Mm-hmm.
human being, and you're allowed to take care of your needs and ask for them to be
Oh,
taken
that's such a
care of.
good point. There's so much, there's a beautiful tension there. And I think for
Yeah.
myself, I spent especially when I started really learning about the nervous system, focusing on expanding my capacity. And that was a goal. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting. I actually found more freedom when I changed my focus to actually embracing my limitations. And that's exactly what
Mm-hmm.
you're getting at. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I want to be able to expand my capacity, but I also want to be fully aware of and not ashamed of my humanity, right?
Yes.
And all of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I was just having a conversation about this yesterday, actually, because one of the things I notice is the work. Different aspects of my work that I do affect me differently, and some of it can take quite a bit out of me. It takes a lot of concentration, a lot of high level focus, right? And my brain can be pretty tapped
Yeah.
out early in the day because I'm a
Yeah.
morning person. And I've noticed feeling really guilty and embarrassed that sometimes by 11:30 a.m., I don't have
Yeah.
any more in me. And it's kind of like it's like yes, when we can open the door to saying, okay, maybe what I'm feeling or needing or experiencing, maybe the way I am is
Mm-hmm.
okay. How can I make
Mm-hmm.
space for that? And I think what then happens, what opens the door, and this speaks to both things that you're talking about here, is number one for me, right in this situation, is when I can say, okay, if I can pay attention to my needs and attend to that and put some things in place so that maybe I do plan my days. So then at this point in time, I get to go meditate or journal or walk or whatever. It's freeing because it's like, oh, now I don't have to believe everything's wrong with me.
Yes.
And then also by putting those things in place to care for myself, what does it do? It actually expands my ability to be effective
Yep.
in other ways, right? So
It
it's
sure is.
both.
I think of it as
Hmm.
like a slingshot. That sometimes I've got to like pull back, right? Or
Mm,
feels like I'm pulling. It's a perception of pulling back, but then it's
yes,
actually catapulting
yes,
me forward in a much more efficient way.
yes, yes. And the other thing is, I think every time we give ourselves permission to notice that we
Yeah.
have a need and to say, I'm going to take care of this need, it actually also reinforces this idea that we are
Yeah.
worthy and that we are worthy
Yes.
of care instead
That's
of
right.
ignored. So, like an easy thing, even like everyone listening can do this, right? Get in the habit of asking yourself if you notice like a tension, a tightness, a stress, anything at all, just asking yourself, just like you would ask your best friend, what do you need
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
self, right? Like, what do I need right now? What can I do for you? And oftentimes, just that question
Yes.
alone can create a release and feel supportive. Or sometimes the answer is something
Yeah.
so small, but we're so afraid of
Yeah.
having needs that we don't
That's
even
right.
go there.
That's right. And it, we
Yeah.
talked about talking about the marriage of of mindset and mindfulness, the meeting point. And that's really a lot of what I hear in that too, is that it requires us to slow down enough to pay attention to what our body's communicating, and then to notice, right?
Yes.
And then to honor it, what our body's telling us that it needs. And we weren't taught these things, but we can learn them now, and
No.
that's mindfulness.
Yes. And I'm so glad you brought this up because I think so when we think about mindfulness or mindset, right? Like mind over matter, mindset and the way we think about things matters in a
Yeah.
big way. Having a positive outlook, creating resilience. And I just want to throw out there that also we can use those concepts in a way where we're actually trying to override the nervous system,
Yep.
override our body, right?
Yep.
Minimize our needs. So what this looks like is, if I'm struggling to, get through a hectic day, right? Maybe I'm like
Mhm.
whatever it is, right? Kids, household, and if I'm feeling something underneath. Maybe I don't even know what it is, right? I'm feeling something. And then I immediately go to, I can do this. I'm just going to put a smile on. I'm just going to power through.
Yeah.
Then what we start doing is we start actually
Yep.
neglecting what's
Yes.
going
Yep.
on for us. And so I think for everyone, if you're using positive thinking, a powerful mindset, and you're always trying to change the story of what's going on in your mind, and maybe you're noticing feeling a little
Yep.
more burned out, this is when you want to pause and say, hold on a minute. Yes, I can have a positive outlook, and what's going on for me? What am
Hmm.
I needing? Because mindset without understanding and connecting with our emotions will override what we need emotionally until we
Yep.
get burned out. And being aware of our emotions without the awareness of mindset kind of can I don't know, I'm trying to say this in the right way, like can make us a little
Yep.
directionless, or I guess a better way of saying it is can keep us from maybe moving forward in ways that we would
Yep.
like to. And so I think the awareness of both is crucial, which is why it's important to have a coach that understands all this,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And
Yeah.
I think we see that a lot, right? We feel I don't know if it's a guilt or shame around our emotions because we think we should be able to bypass them with positivity or whatever it
Yes.
is.
Or let's
Yeah.
fix this. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
people meanwhile, and it's things like, well, everything happens for a reason, or just look on the bright side, or whatever
Mm.
it is. And it's like
Oh my
that might
gosh.
actually even be true. And it's so unhelpful right now because I can't just bypass this. Like this is in my life because it's asking me to deal with it and learn something and feel something or whatever it is before I can, pass this lesson or this stage of my life. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that's so
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, I want to end kind of here. In your book, you talk about a lot of these mindsets, especially for moms, and that's who's listening.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you could
Mm-hmm.
share maybe either a mindset that you see really often, that a lot of people carry that they might be surprised to grow in awareness of today, or something like an invitation
Mm-hmm.
to a new mindset that has a high or quick ROI, maybe that people are like, whoa, that would make such a big difference for me if I started to see things this
Mm.
way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely will. And I think, so yeah, in the book there, it's like the 7 mom traps, which really are all kind of mindset traps that we kind of get caught in, right? And the way to switch those. And so it's hard to pick, but I'm gonna pick, this
Okay.
is the one I'm gonna pick.
This will be the teaser, so
Um,
everyone has to read the
is
book. This will be the
What'd you
teaser,
say?
right? So everyone has to read the book.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, because really it's a very practical book, and it is the mindset shifts. There's a lot of things to help you think differently and a lot of things you can actually do as well. So, one of them that if you are a mom, you are going to relate to this to some degree, and that is this idea that when you first bring your
Mhm.
child home, and keep in mind, so my kids now are 22, almost 20, and almost 14. So it's been a while for me, right? But this still exists for me, and I have to be aware of it. So you bring your child home from the hospital, right? And all of a sudden, you are responsible for the needs of another
Mhm.
human being staying
Mhm.
alive, right? So every noise, every movement, everything is an indication that they have a need. And we get so tuned into that and we take so much of
Mhm.
it on. And what happens is because, one of the things we know about our brain and our survival brain is that we want to be efficient. We want to automate as many
Mhm.
things as we can, right? And so as a mom, we start learning this child and we start just automatically it's like we are one with their
Yeah.
body and their needs, right? And we just jump to it. And then over time as our kids continue to grow, it can be very challenging because we're so close to it to see the things that we are automatically
Yeah.
doing and jumping in and doing. I refer to this as like mom
Wow.
autopilot, where we're just
Mhm.
doing the things. And so I think that one mindset shift that I'll offer everyone here is maybe you're doing more things than you
Yeah.
actually need to
Wow.
do. I don't know. I'm not the one to judge that, but I would take a minute to evaluate right now what are the things I'm immediately
Yeah.
responding to and how can I pause and take some more things off
Mm.
my plate, not just because oh, I'm too busy, I need to take them off my plate, but because it might actually be in everybody's
Yes.
best interest, including
Yes.
your kids and your
Yes.
spouse, for you to take it off your plate.
Ooh, I know. I love that so
Mm-hmm.
much.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it then like the result of that is so multifaceted in that one, we then have more space and time and all of these things that we say that we want, right? And
Yes.
it really empowers those around us, like our children and our partners, to
Yes.
do a lot of these things that we've been, I don't know, I don't say enabling, maybe isn't the word, but like just doing on autopilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we mean
Yes.
well, right? We
Yeah.
mean well. And so if you start evaluating and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing too much, I'm being a helicopter mom. No, you're just
Hmm.
figuring it out. We're
Hmm.
all figuring it out. Give yourself permission to take a look and see what things you maybe don't need to do anymore. And then go
And
have
then
a
go have a
break.
break. Then go put your feet up, and because you deserve it, right? You're worthy of it. Yeah.
That's right, and it's
Yes.
good for you. It's like I think about, like, trees, right? A tree just holds
Mm.
still. A tree takes in
Mm.
nutrients, and it's just still, but what does it do? It gives shade, it gives oxygen,
That's good.
right?
I love that.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Thank you for
so
that. I'll link the book in the show notes for you guys too, for those of you who want to read the rest of these mindsets and traps to avoid. I think that's so wise. For everyone listening who have so enjoyed your wisdom, let them know where they can find you, where they can continue to learn from you.
yes. Yes. So, of course, the book is all about you as moms. You can get that book. Those anyone who is interested in master coach certification or my coach certification and leadership training, go to mollyclaire.com. Very easy to remember. And I do have a podcast. So the Masterful Coach podcast, where I am all about helping you understand how to implement lasting
Mm-hmm.
change. I talk about this multifaceted approach, understanding mindset, emotions, and actions, and also just this really important piece that I think all of us as human beings need to learn, which is how to truly take care of ourselves
Yeah.
in a big way so that we can help other
Beautiful.
people.
Wow, what a mission. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for making the time. Thanks for sharing all of these, I mean, really like big picture thoughts, but then also really practical handles that everyone's leaving with today. So thanks again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yay.